I was told by Alex that you're mostly undergraduates, is that right? Who here was born in 1999? So 1999 was a big year in my life. I'd got my pupillage set up, and in those days that meant you were probably likely to get tenancy if you thought you were a good candidate. So in 1999 I took out a mortgage, I moved into my first flat, I was doing my exams at bar school, I was called to the bar at the end of the year, and my boyfriend left me, and I had my first baby that year and found myself a single mother during pregnancy. So when you hear my talk, I could be your mum, and give me the same respect that you should be giving your mum. And I've got to say, it's when people ask me to talk to students, I feel out of place sometimes because it's 20 years ago since, or more than 20 years since I was going through the process you're going through. I've never been appointed to a pupillage committee. I do meet lots of younger people through different networks and committees that I sit on, but I'm not the right person to give you advice about how to get a pupillage or how to study. I want to believe that the profession has changed a lot from the profession that I was entering. So take my advice in the same spirit that you take your mum's advice. You can take it or you can leave it, and sometimes after you've left it, you might find yourself in a situation where you go back and look for it. So the profession that I entered was very different from the one I hope that you might enter. I was drawn into the bar by an outreach programme that would be banned now. So I'll tell you a bit about my background. I was a non-traditional applicant for the bar back then. I'm the child of two Commonwealth immigrant parents who came to the UK to work as doctors. And like real Indian parents, they valued education very highly. And unfortunately, they both had experiences of racism at work as doctors in the NHS in those days. And in my mother's case, she also had many experiences of sexism at work. And they were worried about what our experiences would be, and that was part of the reason they decided to send me to a fee-paying school. So I went to a very good girls' independent school. And believe it or not, outreach was done in my day to girls in independent schools. Now, I'm a bencher in a temple now, and sometimes I just imagine in one of those oak-panelled rooms, a set of older men must have been sitting around a table thinking, oh, let's have some diversity, let's have some girls. It's like, where would we look for girls? And we've all been to public school and independent school. How about where our sisters go? And so let's do outreach to girls at fee-paying independent schools. And so that attracted me in and told me that there was a profession of being a barrister, because I didn't know any lawyers, and I started investigating it. And so I looked in books in the careers room. There was no internet back in those dark ages, and found out people I could speak to. I was in Manchester. I did work experience in Manchester in a set that was very glamorous. They sent me to a murder trial, and I always remember that the barrister that I was shadowing was a property barrister and gave me lots of maps and plans to read and lots of sets of papers. And then we had a chit chat, and I said, how many weeks holiday are you allowed to take? And he said, allowed to take? Nobody tells me what to do. And so that's what probably attracted me ultimately to the bar. Now, having Indian parents, I don't know if any of you have got Indian parents, traditional Indian parents always want you to be a doctor. And again, that's something that I hope is going to change. My sister was allowed to escape, but she did become a doctor, although it's Renaissance literature. My parents forgave her. I'm still not a doctor. And to illustrate how deep this runs, yesterday I was very proud because one of my cases was in the Evening Standard. I represented an NHS whistleblowing doctor. I started representing him in 2016, and yesterday it was reported in the paper he's to receive an award of £874,000. And so I was very proud, texted the link to my parents and my best friends, show off a bit. And my dad texts back, how come your name wasn't mentioned? So I was coming from a background with a lot of expectations on me academically. I had performed exceptionally well academically. I looked into what I thought I was supposed to do to have a career at the bar. I looked at the CVs of the people who I saw at the bar, who were older white men from boarding schools and public schools, independent schools, and they'd all been to Oxford or Cambridge, so obviously that's what I thought I had to do. I got a place at Oxford. I looked at, by that stage I'd done more mini pupillages in the chambers that I was interested in. They all seemed to have postgraduate degrees. And so I thought, okay, I'll do a BCL. And I was on that track, and then I had to apply to these prestigious chambers. I had another interesting experience. In those days, there were not that many sets that had a woman at all. So I realised I would rather apply to a set that had a woman. And there were very few sets that had a person of colour as well. And in one of the mini pupillage, I won't say where, because its descendant set still exists, somebody that wasn't supervising me came up to me in the lobby and said, you want to have a chat with me for 10 minutes? It was a black man. We had a chit-chat and he asked me about my CV and what I'd done. And then he said to me, with a CV like that, you shouldn't apply to a place like this. And he's told me that some of the experiences of racism that he was having in his chambers. And he said that where there's more money to go around and people are more successful, there will be less backstabbing. And he said, with your CV, you must compete and get a place in the best chambers you can, where the money is coming in. Now, I want to challenge you not to go somewhere boring that you don't fit in, but to ask yourselves, why do you go to work? Most of us are going to work to earn a living and earn money. And when I became a young single mother, it changed my perspective on the importance of money. I was very lucky that I had a few pupillage offers in hand, and I remember I had one person who was a contact through my university who was a junior barrister, and I could speak to her freely. And I remember I had a clutch of offers and I discussed them with her. I turned down a commercial pupillage, which would have been worth a lot more money, because the pupillage award that was on offer in my current set seemed enormous to me at that time. A year later, when I had to pay London nursery fees, I wondered if I'd made a big mistake, and sometimes when cash flow is difficult, which it is from time to time for barristers, I imagine that alternative reality in which I was a shipping lawyer and I never had any cash flow problems. Obviously that's a fantasy, because in all areas of the law there are different kinds of problems. So I found myself in this very traditional career. I was all set to go, and then I was pregnant, so I put a foot wrong. I was on this path that had been laid out to me, and suddenly I couldn't follow it anymore. I had different advice coming in. I very much wanted the baby. I had loved my boyfriend very much. I knew I wanted to have the baby, but I had people telling me directly that I should not proceed with the pregnancy. And indeed, one friend said, I can't believe it. I always thought you were so clever. Now you're throwing your career in the dustbin. So please don't say that to a woman who's expecting a baby anytime. A lot of people didn't expect me to be able to complete the pupillage, but I did complete the pupillage and I did obtain a tenancy. And at that point, my career diverged from the path that had been presented to me, and I realised I have to do things my own way and make it up. And so sometimes we are asked to present ourselves as role models or pioneers or innovators. I want to challenge that. I hope that my experiences are irrelevant to yours. I would like to believe that your experience as candidates now is different from the experience I had. And in case it isn't, I also want to push back against the idea that you have to pick somewhere to fit in. I've never felt that I've fitted in. I still feel uncomfortable. I still feel the legal profession is very traditional and old-fashioned. And yet when I feel that intensely, I feel uncomfortable and wonder if I should have gone to a shipping set, or I should have indeed picked a different profession and become a doctor and please my parents. I remind myself that I support 3 children of my own, I have a lovely house in central London, and I have a nice life, and I have an interesting life. And I want you to think about some of the things Elise said. Where is your job going to fit into your life? I hope that your professional career will not be your life. And the status you have and the ability to be authentic, or to bring your whole self with you, changes as you get to be older. And also want to come back to your mother. As you become an older woman, some people feel that you hear very negative things in the press. I think it's been a great experience to become an older woman. As a mother of older children or grown-up children, it's far harder for people to patronise you, criticise the way that you do your job or the way that you bring your children up. And I find great pleasure in being invited to events like this instead of being the person that did her career the wrong way. And that brought me into politics. When I came back after having my 3rd baby, I wanted to do something different and to be more open about how different my career had been. So I became a mentor of working mothers with city parents. I became a member of the steering group of the Temple Women's Forum, which had just started off. I then got onto the Bar Council retention panel, which is focused on the problem of why we still don't retain enough women at the bar. And that led to more speaking opportunities. I started appearing on the news as quite often as a legal expert. I was invited to give evidence to a parliamentary inquiry, the High Heels inquiry. And then the Women's Equality Party was founded, and suddenly I had an opportunity to do something different. And by that stage, I'd realised my ability to change the world as a lawyer was extremely limited. My job is about earning money and providing for my family. I enjoy the work I do, and I hope I'm providing a useful service to my clients. But in terms of wanting to be any kind of pioneer or innovator, I've had much greater impact through politics. And I think I would like to end by encouraging you to see your career as an aspect of your life where you get money. Not to put yourself somewhere where you're miserable, but I want to challenge the idea that the courtship you receive from chambers and law firms, do you think it's genuine? Why do they want you? Do they want you? Do you actually care if they want you? How uncomfortable can you be if that's the work you want to get? You know, or the advice that I was given a long time ago, go to the place that is the most successful, whether or not you feel you fit in, because if there's more money there, there's less hostility there. These are things that we don't like to talk about, but for a lot of you, you may feel your background's not traditional, or that you don't see people like you in the place you want to be. And I want to leave you with that thought, that you don't have to fit in or feel comfortable. People say growth happens in the areas you feel the greatest discomfort. And just to think about what role is being a breadwinner, what role... I have great satisfaction from providing for my children, because I had been able to get a pupillage in a good set of chambers with the Good Pupillage Award. When I found myself alone, I had a big choice as to what to do. So put yourself in a position where you have the maximum choices and be open-minded. And if you feel that you don't fit in with the career path that people in your chosen profession have, ask yourself why you can't do it, why you can't be different. Thank you.